thing
is... Are you proposing now to bring Dutch startups to the south of Spain in the Dutch winter?
Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. Anyway.
Hello, this is Willem Knaap. Thank you for listening to our podcast, Unknown Stories, with Oscar Villa of the Ministry of Economy and Trade of Spain. Today we'll be talking about Desafia, a program that will bring some really interesting food startups to the Netherlands. And today we talk with Oscar about the program, what it will mean for them, and what it will mean in the long run, of course, for Spain itself. So, Oscar, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's really great to have you. It's the first time I receive an Oscar for a podcast, so thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. Nice to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. So, actually, we know each other a bit, huh?
Yeah.
Because with your team and our team, we work together on a program called Desafia. And what I would like to dive into is understand a bit also the background of the program. So let's just start with the name, Desafia. What does it mean, and why is it there? Why is the program there?
Yeah. Thank you, Willem. Yes, I mean Desafia is the Spanish word for challenge, and it is called in that way because, as you mentioned, the idea of the program is to have, in this specific case, some Spanish startups come into the Netherlands in order to improve their capabilities, in order to understand how the ecosystem works in the Netherlands, in order to being able to have or to grow in the future with the lessons learned in the country. Yeah,
that's great. And it's the first time that Desafia brings Spanish startups to the Netherlands, but Desafia already runs for a longer time.
Yeah.
So when did it start and why did it start?
Yeah, well, just some recaps on that. It is true that Desafia is a program that did start two and a half years ago in Spain, and the approach was, let's see what kind of sectors that we have in our own country, but needs to have something like an upgrade or an activity that can learn from the experience of other sectors in other countries, which could be interesting to see how they work. And this is the first idea. So it starts on a sectorial approach, meaning that the first one was back in the US, in San Francisco. And it was a little bit different. Of course, sectors are different, countries are different, but the idea is that for San Francisco Desafia Challenge program, it was involved companies that they have been validated in terms of what they are doing in that. Because as you know, the US is a very interesting market precisely or specifically on fundraising, on investment. And the companies that went there were basically going for fundraising activities. Now, this has evolve in different options. There is another program now in Tel Aviv regarding to cybersecurity that starts was in the middle of the pandemic. And when we arrived to a situation that FoodTech, because of the strength of the food sector also in Spain, not also here, of course, it was the next sector in order that we have to trying to see what we can improve it. Then it arrives to the Netherlands. Because as we know, the Netherlands has a very nice and interesting food tech ecosystem. So we decided, let's do it, Desafia in the Netherlands, in order to learn from the experience that you have on that way.
Thank you for that. So right now, the program is active in 3 countries. So the United States, Israel, and the Netherlands. Are there already some results from other programs?
Yeah.
Because the program in the Netherlands is there at the end of November, the beginning of December of 2021. So can you already maybe share some results that are out there from the longer running programs?
I mean, there is, as I said before, there is only 2 years and a half old. So there are some results in the San Francisco program. In the Tel Aviv one, unfortunately not yet, because this is starting during the pandemic, less than a year ago. So it's still under evaluation. But the one in San Francisco that was very much linked to fundraising, there was involved 19 companies on that project, on that program. And the results was that as of today, those 19 companies has received 230 million US dollars in terms of investments.
230
million US dollars.
19 companies.
19 companies.
Yeah, that's I would say a very impressive result.
That's right. And on top of that, 3,000 jobs, which, as you know, is one of the weaknesses of the Spanish economy. Is always the same thing. So that's a good idea, in order that they get advantages of what they did in the US. And this is what there is still not finished evaluation, but as of today, the things are going smoothly in that way. So we hopefully has an impression that our Desafia here in the Netherlands could have as much interesting results as the one in San Francisco. Yeah.
Yeah. You already mentioned Spain has a good food system, or food and agri system. Netherlands too. I would like to dive a bit more into it, because you specifically choose to work with themes.
Yeah.
And in this case, the Desafia program in the Netherlands is food and agri. That's thematic, as we chose. So can you tell us a bit about the food and agri scene or domain in Spain?
Yeah.
And also in reference to why bring Spanish startups then to the Netherlands?
Mm-hmm. If I talk about agriculture in a broad way, I mean, including not only the products, but the technology, the logistics, and all those things. To give you some numbers, that represents almost 10% of the Spanish GDP. That in amount is around 120, 130 billion euros. It's a huge amount of money. So the strength of the agricultural sector in Spain, it exists. The thing is, let's move to a next level in terms of helping the small companies to go into the market in the new technologies and in new issues. That is one of the things. That's why we decided that when we, or better said, when we start to think and to study what is the ecosystem here in the Netherlands, we saw it that, for example, in the whole Europe in 2019, I think that all the agricultural sector moves investments of these new products of investment moves around 2.3 trillion euros in the whole EU.
Yep.
In the case of Spain, as of today, 30% of the citizens are much more in favor of plant-based products. Here in the Netherlands, it's even higher. And of course, you have also the technology, the capacities. So is when we decided, okay, we see that there are options in terms for our companies to come here, because there is no a program for early stages of startups, but for companies that they are not scale-ups yet, but close to. And that's why we think that the system that you have in the Netherlands, the so-called triple helix model with the universities in terms of research, the companies, of course, not only venture capitals, but companies itself. I mean, investors, the case of Rabobank that you know well, or the, I don't know, Blue Horizon in terms of capital rising. I think there are good examples that we can learn from that. And of course, the third part of the triple X is the government, meaning to provide the level playing field and the framework in order that the companies could develop their own capabilities. Yeah.
So there's a huge interest in plant-based foods in Spain, and that interest is even higher in the Netherlands. And of course, there are some really good examples of plant-based meat alternatives besides other alternative proteins that are out there. And it's a program to make sure that within 2 weeks they get introduced to the right stakeholders to the right mentors that could help them to talk to the right people in the Netherlands.
Absolutely.
So a program will help with that. And the challenges that they face, they need some capital, they need to go to market strategy, they probably need a partner or first pilot and the right introductions, and then a good funnel with follow-ups. That's something you can do everywhere, of course. It's quite a systematic approach, but something a bit less systematic. It's culture.
There are cultural differences, of course, but in my personal opinion, less that probably you should think in advance. I mean, what is in my view, what is the right approach is, if we are trying to do the Desafia program, going directly, as you said, with the investors or with the venture capitalists or the appropriate companies, probably it's not a question of cultural issues, but rather to be in a facilitator. And there is when you guys unknown come into the picture. I mean, we need to rely on someone that knows the local market. As you said, we know each other because we explain to each other what we're going to do. If you can assist us, and that's in my view, this is the best approach. It's always
use a local enabler.
That's right.
That knows the local ecosystem, knows what's going on, to be a bit of the what you say, enabler, facilitator between the parties.
That's it. I think it's the appropriate thing to do, and that's why we do it. And hopefully, I don't have any clues to that the program is not going to be successful. So I guess that this is the right approach. But cultural differences, well, probably, but less than, in my view, less than we think. The thing is, let's move through with someone that could assist us in the whole process.
Yeah. I mean, so let's say the Netherlands, because of the food and agri system, a program focused to make sure they all get introduced within a short amount of time to the right mentors, stakeholders within large companies, ecosystems, also universities, investors, and work with a local enabler or facilitator, in this case, a known group, to bridge, to organize the program and to bridge between, let's say, the cohort and the Dutch ecosystem in this sense.
That's it. The thing, a part of that, there's one thing that I think we didn't mention. We are now starting the Immersion program, but hopefully next year we have a second phase of this whole event. So I think that for you and us, will be very much interesting once we finish to see where we are, things that we need to improve, and that's to do it through someone that enabled the process, in my view, is much more productive, at least for us, for sure, rather than do it directly.
Yeah.
And this is, again, I do believe it's much more to work on a let's say, goals, short-term goals to have it, and then going for the next level rather than a cultural issue. My personal opinion on that way.
Oh, no, I believe so too. But it's good to have a conversation on that too. You mentioned goals from out of the program. What do you believe should be the goals for the startups in the weeks that are coming?
Well,
besides their own goals,
of course. I mean, of course, no, that's it. I mean, in my personal opinion, there is one real goal, I guess, or hopefully will be the one that really they could achieve it, which is the whole program. What it's doing or is trying to do is to provide them, the startups, the appropriate tools, management skills, or processes, in order that when they face difficulties in the whole process of growing, they have those tools or those instruments in order to avoid it and continue growing. And a part of that, at the same time, they give them a very nice picture of the Dutch ecosystem in order that they could do it business with them afterwards. I mean, but the thing is to strengthen the let's say the management side of how is going to be a growing process of a company in that way. All of them, hopefully, will be scale-up companies. So the thing is that, okay, when you are in the process of scaling up, there are going to be fences that you have to jump. So that's a way to give them the appropriate mechanism in order to jump those fences. Yeah. That's the main idea.
Yeah. And of course, we work together with you, the Ministry of Economy and Trade, but also with ICEX, a Spanish organization. Yeah. So can you explain also for our listeners a bit the role of ICEX in this case?
So ICEX is similar to the Dutch RVO. Quite similar.
RVO of the Netherlands.
Quite similar. Yeah. I mean, they belong to the Ministry of Economy, of course, and Trade, and but they are the ones that produce the programs, because, as you can understand, the ministry itself do not have programs. They are in other things, no? But they have an organization. It's originally called Institute for Foreign Trade and Investments, and it's belong again 100% for the ministry. And they are the ones who dealing with the programs back in Spain. So in other words, we are, let's say, the arm in the Netherlands that trying to develop all these policies that they provide. And that's basically their role. So they have the benchmarks and all the let's say the quality processes that we have to follow. But then we have, let's say, some degree of independence in order to work it out in the country itself.
Yeah, and that's what we also see with working together. It's they bring a lot of experience to the table. But the
program, to be clear, in order that nobody hits me or say anything, they fund the program.
Yeah.
They fund the program.
Let's make sure.
That they fund the program, and we appreciate very much that they fund the program. Yeah,
of course. So for now, I would like to thank you, Oscar, for being here.
A pleasure. Anytime.
Yeah, look forward to work with you and ICEX and all the other partners involved and the startups, of course, to see in what way we can help them scale.
Sure. Thank you very much, Willem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.